our lack of cultural confidence in ourselves. We are no longer a culture that asserts ourselves proudly because we don't want to be racist. We don't want to be bigoted. Yeah, go ahead.
I guess a question I would want to ask, or do we have to read something here?
No, it's fine.
All right. A question I would want to ask is, we do see now where a lot of people are actually converting to Islam. We hear about people joining it in prisons. We actually see Westerners joining it in Germany, in the UK. What's the appeal of Islam in your opinion? Why would someone join it rather than leave it?
So I still think that it is very much inflated, the reality of it. I don't think that there are actually huge numbers of people joining Islam. I think that so here is the thing: Muslim nations and Muslim people generally have a big obsession with white people, with Western people. So if a Western person comes out and says something favorably about Islam, that is very, very much amplified. If a Western person converts to Islam, that is very much amplified. The one place where indeed there is a huge conversion of people to Islam is prisons, which is, I'm not sure if that's a thing to brag about from the Muslim perspective, but there is something that is indeed appealing to some people, which is that Islam is a very strong religion, right? And I'm not saying that as something positive or as something praiseworthy, although there is some praiseworthy aspect of it, because in the West people have become very timid and very tolerant and all that. So while the West is very tolerant and very timid, Islam has a huge assertiveness. It is very proud and very firm, but it is also very deeply indoctrinating and very brainwashing. So it has strong foundations that make it very aggressive and that oppose anyone who speaks against it. Here's the thing: you just mentioned the calls to prayer. The call to prayer is not just a call to prayer. It's not just something that is played like a church bell or something. It is a very clear message. When it is played in a Western nation, in a Western society, in a Western neighborhood, what it says is that there is no God but Allah, and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. So it is a direct declaration that Islam is true, and all the other religions and all the other ways of thinking around you are false.
Well
so
said.
it is a direct assertion of superiority over everybody else.
We're going to welcome back National Radio. More with Ridvan, Apostate Prophet, in 2 seconds. All right, welcome back to the Charlie Kirk Show. Ridvan, you were talking about the Muslim call to prayer as a public demonstration and assertion of Islamic superiority, of theological correctness, essentially an exclusivity claim, right? Christians get a lot of grief for the exclusivity claims about Jesus, that he is the way, the truth, and the life. I have recently been watching YouTube videos about these missionaries in Africa, and they talk about you see what's happening in Nigeria with the persecution of Christians there, and these Muslim armies and these militias coming to hunt them down. And there is a spirit of fear that goes before them. And I don't want to make this, too in the clouds or too spiritual, but it occurs to me that when Muslims begin, doing the Muslim call to prayer in Western cultures 5 times a day, that there is a spiritual element to that. There is like they talk about these missionaries in Africa. They talk about this. You could feel the spirit of fear go in front of the armies, almost in front of these militias before the persecution of the killing starts. I believe that there is a spiritual element of this that is unleashed when you allow that type of thing into your culture. Do you agree?
I do agree, and it also actually goes back to how it is intended to be. So in the beginnings of Islam, when Muhammad was around, he made it a thing to shout Allahu Akbar and La ilaha illallah and so on. So that there is no God but Allah, and Allah is the greatest in front of his armies. It was a very, very fierce battle cry, aside from simply being an invitation to prayer. And of course, you might anticipate that there is a spiritual aspect to it. That when you invoke something like that, and invoke something, to be very frank, evil, that it has wider implications. It is also so it has psychological impacts as well. Think about a Muslim society that comes into a Western nation, or that is in Nigeria, which has a conflict between Muslims and Christians. So think about a group of Muslims that simply settles in an area and practices their religion privately without, having any calls for anything at all. And then think about how Muslims do it. Muslims come into a place, establish their community, establish a mosque, a minaret that then shouts out, there is no God but Allah and Muhammad is the messenger of Allah. It is not only a declaration of superiority over others, it is also a declaration to the Muslims who are around to say, hey, wake up, guys. You are right. All others are wrong, and they are the enemy. I'm very sure that together with the psychological impact and the social impact, there is something evil going on with that as well.
So we had President Trump. He's revoking the temporary protected status for Somalia. But what would your pitch be to Republicans or to President Trump? Lawmakers in Washington, are there any actions, concrete ones you think should be on the table for our government for avoiding the Islamization of America?
Well, I think so. When I was at the last event and spoke at Turning Point USA, I also pointed out a few things that need to be done, that should be done. First off, the Muslim Brotherhood needs to be seriously countered and seen as a terrorist organization with all its elements and all its connections. It is an organization that infiltrates countries, that infiltrates Western nations, that infiltrates non-Western nations, and certain Muslim majority nations in the Arab countries have taken large steps against the Muslim Brotherhood because they know that it is a terrorist organization that wants to subvert societies. Another thing would be to seriously curb and shut down immigration from Muslim countries. I know we have taken steps, but they are not enough. Immigration from Muslim countries needs to be shut down. It needs to be taken seriously. We need to stop being so tolerant. We need to stop being so weak and so meek. And finally, another thing would be information and education about Islam, what it is, what it teaches, what it preaches, and what happens wherever Islam goes needs to spread among the common people. Maybe I know it is always a conflict, and it is kind of problematic when the government steps in and does something like that. But maybe it is upon us to do something about that, as Charlie also wanted us to do, and to inform everybody in America about what Islam actually teaches. And maybe the government can help us at some point to reach more people and educate people who are in charge and educate the officers on that.
Thank you very much. And yeah, Charlie cared a lot about this, especially in the last weeks and months of his life. He went to the UK, he saw what it was very rapidly becoming, and he knew it was only going to get more extreme. Whenever you see this, you have to realize it's going to get a lot worse in the years to come because they're young, they're still coming into the country, they have more kids than us, they can transform a society, and we can't afford to just ignore it.
Stop being so tolerant. Thank you, Ridvan. I love it. We'll see you soon, my friend.